Whoa. What happened here? That's not right. There we go. There we got it. All right. Welcome, everybody, to Hit and Hustle from IrishSportsDaily.com. I am your host, Greg Flammang, and with me, as always, is Jamie Uyeyama. Jamie, Notre Dame has a game in Las Vegas this weekend. They are going to be playing number 16th ranked BYU. Jamie, if you were going to this game, where would you be spending your time out in Vegas? Would you be in playing blackjack, poker, slots, craps? What are you playing? What is your game?
Well, I'm more of a craps guy.
Okay.
But I would say that I would be spending more time just in the sports book probably than anything else. Yeah, and that's where I generally would be spending my time inside a casino. Would be at around the sports book, betting on sports, or around somewhere where I can watch sports and put money on sports.
Okay. All right. I'm not a big gambling guy. It's not my thing. It's never been my thing. It's because of my dad. He's not. He's very be safe with your money. Rainy day, put it away for rainy day type person. So that's the type of person that I am. But if I was in Vegas, I'd be playing poker because I like to play poker. It's fun.
I'm very stick to your limit. I don't once I lose what I allotted, I'm out and I'm good. I can quit. I'm not one of these people that I'm chasing.
Yeah.
So if I go on a bad run, I'm out and I'm just good. Doesn't matter if that's craps or cards or sports or whatever. So I'm good with that. But yeah, I do like to bet on sports.
Yeah. Cool. That's cool. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining the show today. We are going to be previewing BYU. We're going to be talking about. I'm fairly confident. I don't know. I just am. I'm fairly confident in this game. We'll go into why that is. If this is your first time ever listening to us, make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button if you like what you see here. We've got content coming all the time. Matt's doing a really good job of kind of cutting up the shows and giving kind of highlights and that sort of thing. And I think that's gotten a pretty good reception so far too. People liked our Tobias Merriweather commentary, Jamie. Shocking, a shocking revelation. So you're gonna want to check us out. Easy, free to subscribe, right? It's not, it doesn't cost anything. It's literally nothing. Just clicking a button, right? And you get to see Notre Dame football content. So you're gonna want to do that and check out IrishSportsDaily.com as well while you're at it. So Jamie, before we get into the game, I want to talk about something that went around the internet yesterday a ton, which was this conversation between on an ESPN panel. So it was Dan Orlovsky, Marcus Spears, Ryan Clark, and then Mina Kimes called into the show specifically to talk about this topic with offenses. And it was play action passing and doing it under center rather than out of shotgun. And I would play the clip, but it's 8 minutes long, so you're going to want to find it on Twitter. You go to Dan Orlovsky's account, you're going to find it there. And we probably couldn't play it anyway because of the copyright stuff. So, Jamie, what did you think of that? So basically, the premise was, and the idea was, it's a lot harder for the defense when just the quarterback is under center, period, because there's more that the offense can do, and when they do play action, the quarterback is actually turning away from the defense and kind of hiding the ball, right? They can take the ball out of view of the defense. And Marcus Spears was talking about how much more difficult that is. So what did you think of all that?
First of all, I thought it was a great discussion. Loved it.
Yeah.
Loved that kind of thing. I think that NFL Live crew is amazing. They're awesome. Don't know why they should be the ones that are on Sunday mornings. Doing the games. It's like a gigantic upgrade over what they put out on Sunday mornings. But whatever. I mean, that's ESPN's got their own decisions. I'm sure. I think eventually that'll happen with all those people. They have such good chemistry. They're so knowledgeable. I think that specific discussion, I'm definitely on the side of what Ryan Clark and Marcus Spears were saying, that it's definitely true about the different kinds of things you could do play action wise and stuff. The one thing that I'll say, though, I think that it's very specific to the pro game because in the NFL compared to college football, you can do so much more with the RPO game in terms of guys getting down the field, extending stuff. The quarterback run is just such a bigger part of college football compared to the NFL. Yes, love Orlovsky. He's amazing. I thought he did a great job. Loved hearing him on the North Carolina game. I thought he did a great job. I think that that's where there's a big difference, right? And I think because of that, like RPO and the zone read game, that changes the dynamic for the NFL because the majority of quarterbacks in the NFL, like a super majority basically, aren't running threats, right? Aren't guys that, and even if they are running threats, you don't want to run your quarterback.
They're not calling designs.
They're not calling design runs outside of Josh Allen, who is a monster, and Lamar Jackson, who is like freakish, make guys miss, whatever. I don't think I've seen him take a big hit ever, right? Like, but and so like a guy like Russell Wilson, they did a little bit earlier in his career with some of that, but then obviously that went away later on. And there's not a lot of guys like they might sneak in something here or there, but it's completely different with what you can do. And that threat of that kind of changes the dynamic of, because that's like an added piece to the play action game, right? And I mean, crap, you can roll out and like get out and like make it look like you are in like some kind of boot and turn that into a pass or a design run and turn it into a pass. Because I mean, there's guys you're 5 yards down the field, they don't call it in college football, and it's 1 yard in the NFL. It's just a completely different type of deal. So in that sense, I think in the NFL game, I think there's a lot to that. And I do think that there is a missing part of like playing under center more in college football. And I think more teams should do it just more than they do. Cause it's obviously just like everybody's a shotgun team for the most part. Right. And I think it does open up some things there, but I think in general it's different. You know, I mean, you could tell me what you think in terms of like a safety kind of seeing that, because you're stressed in so many different ways in college football compared to the NFL. And obviously the NFL is harder. Like the athletes are better, the quarterbacks are better, so there's that added stress. But in terms of the run game and all that, I think you're just in the RPO game, you're just stressed so much more as a second and third level defender.
Right. So anytime you're on defense, the biggest thing is like, Mitchell, I'll get to that question in a second. So anytime you're unsure of what they're going to do, right? And Ryan Clark talked about this a lot. Like if they're in shotgun, whatever they're doing, there's only like a set number of things that teams will run out of shotgun and like not pistol, right? So if the running back is offset, right? Pistol is a little bit different because you can turn around and just give the ball to the running back in that sense. And you don't do that when the running back is offset next to the quarterback. So anytime you have hesitation, that is the biggest thing. Because if you're not sure, everything is slow, right? If you have a fast defense and you want to slow them down, well, then make them hesitate, right? So turning your back to them when the quarterback, you can't see the ball. And this is actually like kind of an advantage that Drew Pine has as a shorter player, because he has trouble seeing over the line, but then the people in the back have trouble seeing into him as well. So like you ever notice like last year, Jack Cohn, right? Like whenever they went play action, he would always duck.
Yeah.
Right. He'd duck and put the ball out there, like, because he didn't want them to see him. Right. And Drew Pine doesn't have to do that. He's short. Right. So he's behind the thing. And that would actually, like, if they did go under center with him more, that would even be more enhanced because he's right behind those big guys, right? But I understand why, like they want him to be able, they don't want him turning around, right? And so to answer Mitchell, like, isn't a disadvantage turning your back to the defense? It is at a certain level, right? I think in the pros, it's okay because those guys are much better at processing information once they turn around. And the fact is, like, if they turn around and give play action, like they can then turn and read the safety because the safeties are late to react anyway, right? Like that's the whole point. So it would be harder for someone like Drew Pine because he doesn't have as much experience, right? So turning his back to the defense is going to be a little bit different than someone on the professional level. Were you going to say something?
I was going to say there's also so few quarterbacks in college football that are doing like full field reads.
Right.
You know, so like Drake May, for example, who is obviously an extremely talented quarterback. I mean, right now, and you can see why there was a quarterback battle between him and Jacoby Criswell was the other quarterback. And I don't know like where Jacoby Criswell is at in terms of his like knowledge of the offense, but they decided to start May because of the upside, because physical talent, like the guy's a freak, right? He's awesome.
Yeah.
But I mean, watch the game and see how when he's a first read, he's just boom. And it's like a thing of beauty, whatever. He's not going to second read. Like he's like first read, I got to get out. Like he's not there yet. Right. And there's a lot of guys like that. Right. And I think like, so a guy like Jaron Hall for BYU, he is somebody that I think last year he wasn't at this level, but now this year he's at a higher level in terms of like going through his progressions quickly, getting through like full field reads. You can see it with him on film. Right. And so I think that's like, you know, obviously a difference there too. But I thought the other part of it that we didn't talk about was when they're talking about setting the protections and stuff and how that and the back being, I mean, that does give it away. The issue with that in college football is then why you can get away with it more is because the defense is less just quickly like, oh, we're making a check as soon as they see that protection to something else, because there's guys they're not ready for that. Not everybody is. Some guys can, whatever, but not everyone. So they can't make those checks when all of a sudden they see the back shift over or whatever, and then all of a sudden that changes how they're going to attack protection, right? Mm-hmm. So like sometimes they might have an automatic check or whatever, but it's usually not as simple as that, right? And so that's something also too that I think that is it's more advanced and more NFL relevant than it is for college football. It's not to say that obviously, like, you know, they have smart guys coaching defense in college football and they're attacking protections and all that kind of stuff too. They're just the players I don't think are there at a point where, you know, they're making the kind of checks that you can see with all of a sudden a guy shifts from, you know, pistol to offset gun or whatever. Like they're not making that. It's not, that check isn't happening the same way that it is in the NFL.
And in like a lot of this time, like in the NFL, if it happens really quickly, like the check happens unspoken, right? Yes. Everyone just has to
Everyone just knows. Yeah.
Yeah. It's in the game plan. And so, you know, we always have the conversation. Like you want to dumb down the defense, right? Dumb it down so you can play fast, dumb it down so you can play fast. Well, that's the trade-off, right? Is if you make it so guys don't have to make that kind of a check, then, you know, you're not getting to that point.
And the NFL, they're not dumbing down anything. That's
right. And you're like you're expected. You have to know it.
You have to. If you're not, you can't play in the league.
Yeah, you're not going to be out there. And the other part too is when you go from like half field reads to full field reads and that sort of thing. Like Notre Dame, like we talk a ton about quarterback regression at Notre Dame between first year and second year, right? And I think a lot of it comes from the fact that Notre Dame's trying to build a quarterback to make full field reads, and so that was, I think, something that Ian Book kind of struggled with a little bit, where it's like he would get it
He couldn't
sometimes and
really
other
take the
times.
next step. Yeah.
Right. He would get it sometimes and other times he would miss it. And when he missed it, it's like, oh, there's a wide open receiver. Like, why didn't you hit it? It's like, well, he never had really got to that level. So it's not like, it's one of those things where it's not like a regression. It's just not a progression. And any stagnation is going to appear to be, like you're going backwards, right? Especially from what people expect. Like people talk about, like, when people say, oh, Notre Dame can open up the whole playbook. What you're really talking about is you're opening up the whole field.
Yes.
Not the playbook itself. We're opening up the field, not the playbook. So it's like the game plan, like everything's installed. You can run whatever you want. It's just that there are some things you're not getting to. And it's like something for me too, when I break down a game, like when I put a film of like a clip online and I see that a quarterback missed a receiver, it's like, I don't know if they're a half field guy. Is that even a live route? You know what I mean? Like, is it a live route? So it's hard to determine. So that's why, like, I try not to do that.
Try not to be too critical of this, because you don't know exactly like what is being like said to them and what they can process and what they can't. Right. Yeah. So like, and that is also the kind of the thing with like Tyler Buckner, where it's like a fine line between being like, just go out there and play like you got this physical talent and whatever. And then but we want to run the offense where if you see that guy, and he might be your third progression and you could hit him on the post or whatever. Like, but it's not a thing that a lot of people will get to very early on. Like and maybe you can get there sometimes, but it's different in, when it's in the heat of the moment in the battle, right? So it's a tough ask for a lot of these guys, and which is why, like, you would see like a guy like Kenny Pickett's a perfect example of like, watch that guy early in his career at Pitt and be like, what is the deal with this guy? Like, you could tell like he was a good quarterback or whatever, but you're like, he was just like immediately like, oh, it's not there, check down. Just whatever. It never came to and then you watch him in his last year and it's like, wow, now all this, it's like all of the information is going on, all ones and zeros. He's getting like, he's got the full, matrix working for him right now, because he's got all that. And I mean, that took time. I mean, that guy started multiple years, and that's what it's like. And that's why too, like a guy like Hall last year, who started last year and was good, but I mean, he's at a different level this year.
Yeah. And that's why, like you see, when Brian Kelly, when Deshaun Kaiser was coming out and Brian Kelly says he should come back, he's not ready, and I think Kaiser felt like I need to capitalize on, this opportunity and that sort of thing.
I thought he was going to be a first round pick.
But that's the trade-off, right? Like you when they talk about development, especially at quarterback, it's different for someone than like Kyron making that kind of decision, where it's like he's I got to get out because of my body and that sort of thing. But a quarterback can actually have real like development progress, and then you get to the NFL and you're ready to go. So yeah, I wanted to talk about that. I thought that was a good discussion, and it's like related to Notre Dame a little bit and kind of get like a little higher brow convo going on that. But let's get into the Nicholas. I'm gonna star this question, and we'll get to it later because we're gonna preview BYU. So I'll get to that in a little bit. And Mitchell, I'll star this. Any questions you guys have while we preview BYU, I'll see it and star it, and then we'll go. But Jamie, so Notre Dame's got 3-point favorites right now, as last I checked, against BYU's 16th ranked team. We talked in the last in the last show about how that ranking isn't truly reflective. We don't think that BYU is the 16th ranked team in the country. Strong offense, right? What we talked about Jaren Hall already. I think they've got some really good wide receivers, not dissimilar to the North Carolina game. I do think that, like you said, like Jaren Hall is a little bit more advanced as a quarterback than Drake May is. But I think Drake May's probably a little bit more physically talented, but Jaren Hall is a really good football player, and he can hurt Notre Dame. Beyond that, though, I don't know. I don't see this as a very poor matchup for Notre Dame, kind of on either side, frankly. So why don't you go into it with Jamie? Tell me about. I guess let's start with BYU's offense against Notre Dame's defense, and then we'll go the other way.
Well, I like you said, quarterback play. I think he's good. I think he's someone who, if he has time in the pocket, and he's had plenty of time in the pocket, he's like pressured on like only like 21.6% of dropbacks this year. Some of that, I think, is the teams they've played, and they haven't really played great defensive lines or anything like that. But they have like, pretty much everyone's back on the offensive line. 4 starters back, and the 5th guy was a guy transferred from Oregon who was like a very highly rated guy. And they're good. They're good in pass protection. They are, and they're experienced too. So you can see like they don't have busts, right? They don't have busts in protection. In saying that, I think they're soft up front in terms of what they do in terms of run blocking. You don't see a lot of movement up front. And I think that's partially too, like they were like probably like a 55% pass or run team the last couple years, which is when they, obviously that was Zach Wilson year too, as well as Jaren Hall. And so it's not like, quarterback play or whatever. And so I think a lot of it is they just don't block as well. And the backs aren't as good. Like the one guy plays for Atlanta right now.
Tyler Algier.
Yeah, he's very, very good player. These backs are fine. They're fine, but they're not as good as that kid, and they don't block as well. So they struggle to run the ball consistently. So that's been an issue for them. And then I think if they don't have success running the ball, then I think that you're going to see them get into 3rd and long a lot. And when when they're in 3rd and long, it's just like any quarterback's going to be worse. But he's a guy who Jaren Hall goes from a guy who I believe had like maybe an elite number NFL passer rating on like 3rd and medium and 3rd and short to 3rd and 7+. He's like, below average. And I don't think that's atypical, but that's like the kind of thing. And when you look at the fact that they're 110th in stuff rate on, on offense, right? So that's runs that are 0 yards or less. And they just don't get a lot of 85th in opportunity rate, which is runs of 4 yards more, and basically where the line does their job. They don't run the ball that well. So they don't run the ball that well, and they're going to rely on a lot of like early down success. So if Notre Dame kind of stops them on 1st down and gets them into 3rd and long, I mean, I think they're going to struggle. And that's what happened with Baylor. And that's why they only scored 20 points in regulation against Baylor, right? And some of it obviously was the field goal kicker too, but that's a whole different story. Right. Yeah, and I think when you look at Notre Dame, where you'd say the run defense hasn't been great, especially not the first 2 weeks, been better the last 2 weeks. So if they continue to play like they do the last couple weeks against the run, I think they're going to be in a really good position. They obviously have to contain Hall as a scrambler because he hasn't scrambled as much this year. He's looking to pass way more. Before he was like you said, the quarterbacks, one read and out. Before now he's going through all the progressions and stuff and trying to do more. But you got to be able to hit home because if he has too much time, he can burn you. But I don't know. I like the matchup for Notre Dame's defense.
Yeah, I do too. And we'll talk to Brennan. I was actually gonna give you credit before you chimed in because he had a stat that we were talking about earlier this week about the majority of 1st downs or successful plays that BYU's had is on 1st down. And 2nd and 3rd down, their numbers go way down efficiency wise. And what I would say to this question is whether Jalen Hall's at a different level. I think he is in many ways, and his numbers are a product of the type of team that they are. You can't run the ball, right? And I think their offense isn't as like quarterback friendly as like North Carolina's would be, right? So like I think if you switch the quarterbacks, I think we'd be having the same conversation, and I think North Carolina would probably be a little bit better offense right now with Jaren Hall, just because he's at a different level progression wise. So that's kind of how I see it, but I don't think he's at a different level to the point where like
he's not elite, but he's a good quarterback. Like I think there's a pretty big gap between him and like a CJ Stroud. But I mean, he's a good quarterback. If he has time and they have good receivers, they're gonna make plays down the field, right? So that's the thing. If can you get pressure on him? And the thing is, everyone looks pretty good when they're not pressured. And he's only been pressured 21.6% of the time. Yeah, and that is partially who they've played, right? But no one has really got a ton of pressure on him. So that's the thing. Notre Dame, fantastic pressure the last couple of weeks. BYU has a better line than North Carolina and Cal. Way better than both those teams. But now you get to see, is Notre Dame's defensive line legit in terms of like, can they do it against a better team? This isn't Ohio State's offensive line, but they're a pretty good offensive line, especially in protection. And you have to see what they can do there.
Yeah, and I don't think Jaren Hall is good enough to overcome the difference, right? Drake May wasn't. He wasn't good enough to overcome the deficiencies that they have on offense otherwise. Yeah. So, and I see Jaren Hall as being the same. And look, and we'll get to this when we talk on offense too. Like you said, I think they're soft. Like I thought Utah State was pushing them around. And that was the latest game I watched. I know Oregon pushed them around. So it's like, if you can't, like, if you're not going to be able to run the ball on Notre Dame, then you're going to have a really tough time, and look at Ohio State. What were they able to do? They were able to run the ball, right? And that's how they
won the game.
Notre Dame. That's how they won the game. So, and same thing with Marshall, right? That's how they won the game as a running team. And Cal couldn't, and North Carolina couldn't, and then you saw how that went, So I don't think Utah State, like I expected them to be tougher. I don't think Puka Nacua is playing. He had an ankle, and then he had a really bad knee injury where it's like he was in a lot of pain.
They said that maybe he will play, but I think that's just them saying that. But I mean, who knows? He might play, but it's not good. You're screaming in the tent when it happened. That's typically not a thing that you would expect him.
And he had the ankle too.
Yeah, so he might even be back, but he just might not even be the guy that he normally is. So I don't know. We'll see.
But back to what I was saying, I thought BYU would be tougher. I thought they would be stronger up front. I thought they'd be like on both sides. I thought they'd be nastier. They're certainly nasty. They're certainly nasty after the whistle.
Yeah, I think the Bronco Mendenhall BYU teams were a lot more physical.
Yeah. So they didn't have that, and I just don't think you can. I don't think you can beat Notre Dame as the lesser talented team already if you're not going to be physical up front. I just don't see them having that. And we can transition to the Notre Dame offense versus the defense now. I don't know, man. I look at what they're doing, and maybe they'll do something different against Notre Dame to kind of keep them from running the ball. But you got Utah State in there, and Utah State's in 4 wide with a single back, and they've got 5 in the box. Please do it. I really want to see that a lot. And even when they do have 6 in there against 6, it's just they're getting pushed around. The BYU is able, or Utah State was able to move their front 7 or the defensive line especially. And look, again, if you can't hold up on your end on the defensive line against Notre Dame, people talk about what they did against North Carolina. It's like, oh, I don't know if they can do this against better defense. Well, from what I've seen from BYU, I think they can do it. I really do. And so if you're not stopping Notre Dame running the ball, you don't really have, you're basically dead to Notre Dame just playing a poor game. Right. And then it's like, no, that's not even analysis. It's just like, yeah, if Notre Dame plays bad, then maybe they'll lose, but matchup wise, I just don't see, I just don't see it being an issue. What was your take there?
I think they purposely play a lot of light boxes because they don't want to give up big plays through the air. And I think that's like they play like they rarely blitz. They've only had one game this year where they really were like kind of a heavy blitz team. They're not a heavy blitz team at all. So, and then they don't have dudes up front. They're like no dudes. They don't have any game, not one guy who's like even close to a game wrecker. So I think when you have that and you don't have that up front, and I think the inside linebackers are fine players. They're fine. But like, just you ask too much of them if they like the guys aren't able to protect them up front. So they haven't given up big plays in the running game, but they've been very bad, like giving up consistent runs, right? Like they are not a good, it's not a good run defense. It's not a good run defense. Part of that is scheme wise, part of that is on purpose because they're like making sure like that. And a lot of teams are doing this now, right? Where they're trying to get like 2-on-1s in coverage, right? They want to get that because, and they're like, okay, you can run the ball, but we're not going to give it to you. We're not going to let you beat us over the top, right? So they haven't given up a lot of big plays to the air, minus the Oregon game. But a lot of that was just like Oregon was just way too fast for them, way too fast. And they're 122nd in EPA per rush on defense. Like that's bad. That's horrible, right? That's like North Carolina bad. So, situationally, they're a bad run defense. And I think that I would be. That's why I think it would be smart if Notre Dame plays 11 personnel, so one tight end, and just runs the ball on them that way and doesn't play too heavy against them. Because if you spread them out, I think you're going to run the ball on them like all game long.
You're gonna run it down their throat, and not just that too, but people talked about how soft North Carolina was on the outside. BYU will press their outside guys, but their slot defenders they'll play 8-10 yards back. I mean they'll be real soft out there. So the screen game will be available to that. If Notre Dame has a good blocking day outside, I mean this could get into a big deal. Jamie, we might have some breaking news here. Let me check it out while we're talking. Why did that not come up? Okay. So Marcus Freeman's talking right now. Jacob Lacey is going in the transfer portal. Again, so we had heard about this. I guess it was 2 days ago. I think it was when Matt had told us about it. He was, obviously there's sensitivities to that. You want to get permission to talk about it and that sort of thing. So I guess let's do real quick. What is your take on Jacob Lacey leaving the program? I think Matt might have been first here, but it was like right when Marcus Freeman was set to talk about it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, as soon as whatever he went live with it. So
yeah.
I mean, you could say that like Matt was just waiting to.
Matt was definitely. I mean, he had it 2 days ago. So
I mean, yeah. Much like when Notre Dame gets a commitment, I wrote my little blurb on it like days ago. So
yeah.
I don't think it's an insignificant loss. I mean, he's played a lot of football for Notre Dame since 2019. He has obviously battled through injuries. He had, when you get a guy who 2 big sacks against Cal, that was important in that game. Last year against Wisconsin, right? Heinisch got hurt. Him and Cross had to really step up. He did step up. He played well in that game, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, he barely plays this year. And that's a product of the depth that they have at defensive tackle. And also, Howard Cross is playing at a really, really high level, and Lacey wasn't going to beat him out. So he was going to be a backup. You already have a guy like Chris Smith who barely plays too, who's looked good. Rubio's coming on and playing as well too. And then you have like Aiden Kanina, who I know they're high on, he obviously is out for the season because he tore his ACL in the spring. But like, they got a lot of bodies there. Then you have, you know, obviously Jason Admiral is a 3-tech. He's not going to play over Jason Admiral. You know, he could maybe back him up. But then you also have Mills, who lines up and plays inside and is a pass rusher. And he's a better pass rusher than Lacey. So it's not trying to diminish that Lacey's losing him it's not good, because that's like a depth piece, a guy who could step up. And if he had to start, he could and play pretty well. At the same time, you know, you'll be fine without him because you have enough guys there. They're deep. Like, this isn't like 2017, you know, like,
yeah,
they're very deep at defensive tackle. And then I think last year, like, or next year, you know, he could have started maybe, but I mean, we don't know if Mills is going to come back inside and they're going to play Mills and Cross there. We don't know if, you know, what they're going to do if Cross is going to play 3-tech, and then all of a sudden you got Rubio and Kainaina, and then like Onye coming on. Like, I've heard good things about Jason Onye. I thought he looked good, really worked hard. And then you got like Tyson Ford's a 3-tech.
Yeah.
Like, this dude is and they're very high on him. He's going to play a lot. So it's like, it's a lot of competition there where, I mean, look at like Jamion Franklin could not see the field at Notre Dame. And obviously some of that was his injuries, right?
Right.
He leads Duke in sacks. Like, he's a good player. Like, he's not like he's a guy who can play Power 5 football. Lacey obviously can start somewhere. He just probably wasn't going to start at Notre Dame. So, you know, you wish him the best and best of luck to him.
So the people are like the timing. So they've played 4 games and he wants to preserve a year for wherever he goes. Right. So if he was to play against BYU, he loses this year, he'd only have 1 year left. Right. So he wants to have the opportunity to have a 2-year run to start somewhere, obviously. And that's the thing. Like, when you're a player like Jacob Lacey, and he probably feels like, hey, I can go start somewhere and make a run at being an NFL draft pick, right? That's probably what he's thinking. And then look, this is only one. You only get one opportunity for this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like he can try over again somewhere. Like, he can only play football for a set amount of time. And so for him, it's like, look, I got to get on the field, right? I don't want to be down. I want to go as far as football can take me. And if he feels like he can't do that at Notre Dame, then it makes sense to move on now, because you want to get those 2 years, you know? And it's like you said, it's not that Jacob Lacey can't play. He can obviously play. He made 2 sacks in the Cal game. I mean, he had a huge game, right?
He would have started on a lot of Notre Dame teams.
Right. And so he kind of got unlucky last year because he had the bad ankle injury against Wisconsin. We had a really good football game against them. And then he had the ankle injury that kept him out for a really long time.
The shoulder the year before. Yeah.
The shoulder. Yeah. So he just got unlucky there. And for one player's like misfortune is another player's fortune, right? Those players like the Howard Cross, right? Like, he's able to gain footing and become a more, you know, what's it called? More regular player. And so it's kind of unfortunate for Lacey. So he's probably thinking, I can't like 20 snaps a game. Like, I can't do that. You know, 20.
Yeah, and he's 25. Not even getting that, really.
Right. And he didn't get that against North Carolina. He got 9, you know, and look, he ceded snaps to Gabriel Rubio. Chris Smith is playing well. Howard Cross is playing at a very high level. So it's one of those things for him. He probably thinks, man, I can go in there and I can be like a real player. Like, I can be Howard Cross. But then he probably looks at it like, but Howard Cross also has like a really good case to play. And so does Gabriel Rubio. And so does Aiden Kainaina. And so does Riley Mills. And so does Tyson Ford. You know, it's like when you have a bunch of bodies and a bunch of options who can play and the team is excited about, well, someone's going to miss out there, you know? And so it just makes sense then to move on. It's bad for Notre Dame because he's a good football player. Yeah. And you want to be, anytime you put someone in on the defensive line, you want a good football player in there, and he's that, right? So go ahead.
Well, I think too, like, even if you would have played him, people like, well, one, he's going to get his degree, so he's going to be fine, whatever. In that terms of that too. So he's going to get his Notre Dame degree. And And the other thing is that, you know, there's a lot that goes into like when you're just part of just the rotation rather than a starter. And even when you're like a starter, but then you don't play on third down or whatever. Well, now he might have a chance to go somewhere where guy has never had a chance to rush on third down his entire career. Now he might get a chance to do it. And maybe he'll be awesome. Like I was very high on him as a recruit. And I think, I mean, you saw like he's a talented guy. Like he can make plays for Notre Dame, but I just think too, like a lot of it is just kind of luck, injuries that kind of held them back at a certain time. I think there's people that going into the 2019 season, or not, maybe not 2019, sorry, 2020, I guess, right? That they thought that maybe he's got a chance to beat out Kurt Hinish, right? Like, you know, because he played as a
Hopefully Jamie comes back here soon. We got a little freezing situation. All right, let's see. I'll wait for him to come back. All right, so we're talking about the Jacob Lacey situation. Jamie's talking about he was talking about the misfortune of Jacob Lacey, you know, getting the injuries and that sort of thing. Had a chance to, you know, compete with Kurt Hinish and get playing time there. And obviously the injuries really affected him from a football standpoint. And it just like, look, this happens a lot with football players where you will you have a future and then injuries kind of derail everything, you know. And look, we kind of have seen that with we saw it a little bit with Kevin Austin, you know, who could have transferred after, you know, he had the foot injuries and all those things, and he had those problems, and Kevin Austin was able to come back and have a good last year. But Jacob Lacey didn't want to wait for that because of what was waiting in the wings. And that makes it very difficult for him. Oh, the power went out in Jamie's house. That's no good. You need power. That's what I heard. You need power to work the internet. So hopefully that gets back up for him soon. But so it's unfortunate for Jacob Lacey. Okay, it came back on. He's waiting for the Wi-Fi to reboot. It's unfortunate for Jacob Lacey. He was a good football player, and you know, Notre Dame's going to miss him. On kind of a personal note, his parents were awesome to me and my friends when we went out to USC last year. We went to the parent tailgate. We were invited over there. Jacob Lacey's dad, he made us burgers. He had made tremendous burgers at the tailgate. He's a very nice man, and his mom she had such a positive attitude. He had hurt his ankle against Wisconsin. She had such a positive attitude about, you know, his the house running on maple syrup, about his, you know, recovery and that sort of thing. And she was waiting for him to Jamie's back. So she was waiting for you know, him to get healthy and everything. And she was very kind to us and was very nice. So it's unfortunate to have them leave the program too. Because I know David Lacey was a stalwart at the parent tailgate. So it's
really
unfortunate to see him. Yeah, he was a very, very nice person and a very nice man. And so again, like to echo what Jamie said, we wish him the best. Good luck to Jacob Lacey.
Yeah, he'll be balls out wherever he goes.
Yeah, wherever he goes, he's going to have some good opportunities to play. So, all right. So I guess let's finish up with BYU here, Jamie. We talked a lot about their lack of toughness up front on both sides. What do you think? Do you think Notre Dame's going to have opportunities with their secondary?
I don't think they're. Yeah, I think speed wise, I don't think they're the greatest.
Yeah.
Right. Like I don't think they're overly fast. So I think like you're going to see opportunities to kind of attack the middle, attack those safeties there. I think those corners, like you mentioned, they're big and they like to like go and like press those outside guys. And normally you would say, oh, like this is a chance for Notre Dame to kind of win there, but Notre Dame really hasn't even attacked anybody on the outside with their receivers. But maybe this is a game where you have it where it's like Jaden Thomas does that, or one of those guys does that. Because I think there are going to be opportunities there. I don't think they're not They're not overly talented. They don't have a lot of NFL guys in that secondary. So I think there are going to be chances.
Yeah. Sorry, I heard someone nearby. It's distracted me. Yeah, I just wasn't impressed. Wasn't very impressed with a lot of what they were doing in the back. I feel like of the defenses that they played, they're probably better than North Carolina, but I don't think they're as good as Cal. I don't think they're as good as Marshall, and I don't think they're as good as I don't think they're as good as Cal, Marshall, or obviously Ohio State. Right? They're pretty close to elite. So, do you want to do well, I guess we have our predictions coming out. Do you want to preview that, or what do you want to do?
We could give our predict. Yeah, we can. I mean, I sent mine in. I know you sent yours in.
Yeah, I did.
So,
Go. Let's hear it.
I picked Notre Dame 31-24. I honestly believe that I wouldn't. I think it is almost more likely that Notre Dame wins by 2 touchdowns or more than it is they lose the game. Okay. That's just my feeling on the game. Obviously, like a lot of things can happen turnover wise and all that kind of stuff too. I just think the matchup is a good one for Notre Dame, like in terms of up front. So, I mean, I think if they continue to play like they have in the last 2 games up front, and there's no reason for me to believe that they won't play well on both sides of the ball, I think they're going to control the game. And then ultimately, like we didn't talk about it, but BYU's kicking game, there's big problems there. 5 of 10 of field goals this year. And all of the misses have been within 40 yards for 6 of 11 because they had a new guy come in, had to make a 26-yard. So they got problems at the kicking position. And they also, their long snapper is out for a significant amount of time. And that's something that plays in the part in it too. Because like the punter, who was really good last year, is like not good this year. And that's something I remember, like John Sott, team MVP John Sott was talking about how much better it was for him at Notre Dame than Harvard because he's consistently getting a good snap, right?
Yeah.
And they didn't have a good long snapper at Harvard. So that does play a part in it. And I think even if it's a close game, I think Notre Dame will have the edge because of special teams.
Yeah, I picked Notre Dame 38-20.
Okay.
Yeah, I
think it could happen.
I just that's how I see it going, right? I don't think BYU can slow down Notre Dame. If you can't stop Notre Dame running the ball, then you're going to have a really tough time. I think Drew Pine's going to be comfortable back there. I think they're going to find opportunities, and I think they'll just make it tough for BYU, right? No earned points. Like it's going to be hard for them to earn points. I don't expect. I think the big play stuff is going to get cleaned up. I think the secondary is starting to really round into form. I think the defensive line is starting to round into form. I think the offensive line is, and look, it just, I just don't. I've kind of thrown away the Marshall game, and I think if you take away the Marshall game from the way we view this team, I just think it points to Notre Dame playing really well in this matchup against BYU. I don't think that BYU is the type of opponent that's going to give them problems this year. So it's like I said, they're kind of dead to Notre Dame just laying an egg, which could happen. It's probably more likely than previous years because we saw what they did against Marshall. But how much do you credit the bye week thing, like Marcus Freeman's first bye week? You think what do you have any sort of strong feeling on that, or do you have a concern about that? Like, what do you think about that?
No, I kind of think the bye week is overrated in general in terms of like, I mean, I think like, so last year, I think it was like a critical need because it was like, there was so much they needed to reboot with the offense and all that. So they needed that kind of like change and self-scout and do the stuff. And I'm not saying they didn't self-scout and do some of this stuff this week, but I think this part was like more about getting healthy and like getting Freeman mentioned that DJ Brown and Ramon Henderson are healthy. Like that's important in this game, right? Especially with their receiver. So I think like that kind of thing. Like I just generally think like it's not like you're going out and during the bye week and then it's like they're going to Cancun, You know what I mean? Like that's not happening. So I always kind of think the bye week is a little bit overrated in terms of like, oh, coming off a bye week, they have this extra time to prepare. I mean, they do in a sense, but I think also too, it's more about getting healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
And getting young guys prepared too. Sorry, should mention.
Yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, so I agree. I am a little bit just like we've never seen Marcus Freeman deal with a bye week, and then bye week going into Vegas. Like, are they able to sustain, kind of the role they were on against North Carolina? We don't have reason to think about it either way in terms of like positive or negative, but it is a factor, right? And so I think if they did play poorly, I think we probably would say, well, they didn't come off the bye very well. So it's just something. It's a variable that they wouldn't have had otherwise. All right, I'm going to throw up a couple of questions here. Would you say Notre Dame has thrown more this season out of 2 or 3 tight end sets than in prior seasons, and do you think they should do it more?
I don't think they've done it more than they have. I
haven't looked at it. It's not my. Not my impression.
I mean, definitely they haven't run 3 tight ends enough to even. It's like way too small of a sample size to even say it. But I think. I mean, obviously in 12 personnel, I don't think they've thrown. I don't think they've thrown more. And I think, in fact, if you look at especially like that Cal game, for instance, like. They ran the ball a ton out of that 12 in that game, right? So, and I'd say I thought they were going to run 12 more, period, this year, and they've played a lot more 11 for not having the depth and the kind of players that you would want at receiver. But I think that's kind of how you have to play in a lot of sense. And then obviously they've used guys like Thomas and Salerno even as like kind of blockers in a lot of that in that kind of role.
Yeah. And it seems pretty clear to me, at least at this point, that a second back is better than a second tight end.
Yeah.
They're just more explosive. And that's how I look at it. So yeah, I don't know, but you obviously love the tight ends, right? In that San Francisco 49er offense, right? The explosiveness.
I mean, I love it if you are doing all the stuff that they're doing with it. Yeah. I love it if you got Kyle, Juszczyk and you playing in like the Tommy Tremble kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm all about that. And I will say, loved Davis Sherwood, unsung hero of the
nice role.
North Carolina.
He's got a nice little role for himself.
Got a nice role, and I like that. Yeah. And hey, let's sneak him out into the flat every once.
It's gonna happen. It makes sense. No one sees it. No one's seen it.
I'm calling it. Davis Sherwood. He'll get a touchdown. Not this week. I don't know what they call it this week. He'll get a touchdown against UNLV. I'll say.
Who scores the touchdown first? Tobias Merriweather or Davis Sherwood?
I'm gonna say Davis Sherwood. Oh, that's good and good. Yeah, people are gonna love that. But I that's what I'm gonna say.
All right. All right. Mitchell Vahalik. Is Notre Dame undefeated in 2017 with Kaiser?
No, I don't think so. Like,
who did they still lose to Georgia?
I think they probably win that Georgia game, really. But I also think that Georgia game, kind of losing that game and also kind of helped propel them in a way too. But I mean, they could have won that game and they could have gained confidence. I mean, who knows? It's all hypotheticals. But like, I think they would have went. So they went 10-2 they went 9-3, 9-3 in the regular season. I think they would have went 11-1. That's what I think.
So they still lose to.
I think they still that Miami game. I think would have still been a mess. I'm just gonna say, like, I just think that was a recipe for disaster, and it just worked out the way it worked out. But I'm confident they would have beat. That wasn't a good Stanford team.
No.
And Wimbush was like not good in that game.
Yeah, he was off it.
He was throwing worm burners into the ground. Yeah. He was like obvious RPO reads, like throw the bubble here. And he was just like, didn't want to throw it because he had the yips. Like it was not good. I mean, there's a reason why.
Bad Brandon,
Yes. And I think like there was really only one thing where I thought after, I mean, this is kind of going a little bit of a tangent, but I thought after the Michigan State game and the way he started in that game, I thought I was like, oh, what's up, Pops? Good to see you there. I think Wimbush in that Michigan State game, I thought, oh, he's like, this could be turning a corner here. But it was not. It was just a little bit of a mirage. It was wishful thinking on my part.
I think for me, it was the Wake Forest game. I was like, yeah, man, he's really feeling it. Like he's getting into it. He wasn't very efficient in that game, but it was also cold and rainy.
Yeah.
It just seemed like he had it. And then from there, it just, nope.
Yeah.
Nope. But that's fine. They tried again in 2018 and it just, I don't know. It's, I mean, I guess I could, next time I talk to Troy, I guess we could discuss that one, especially the Miami game, because that was crazy. Oh my goodness.
From Korea. All right, man.
Someone from Korea. Where is Matt Freeman? Matt Freeman needs to get in here. This is awesome, man. Love the analysis. Keep it up from Korea, man. Hey, appreciate you. What time is it there?
So we're probably in our prime time. No, wait. No, it's got to be the next day. It's got to be early morning in Korea.
Is it? I don't know how that works. I don't know.
Well, it's what is it to Japan? I think it's 13 hours.
So it's Friday.
East. Yeah. So 16 hours for you. So
1:29 a.m.
1:29 a.m. Okay. Wow. Okay.
This person is this person. You are my friend, man or woman, doesn't matter to me. You are a legend. You're an absolute legend, right?
I love it. Man.
People tell me like, oh, you wake up so early on Sundays to do the morning show. It's like 6:30 or whatever. This person is up at 1:30 a.m. listening to the show. I appreciate you. And I think we should end it there with our friend. Yeah. Our friend needs to go to sleep. All right. So if Kev's Cove, if this is your first time listening in, hit the like button, hit subscribe button. I think everyone should do that, right? There's going to be more good stuff coming up. Good luck to your Jays. Jamie is what Nicholas says. I assume that refers to
I'm wearing this Jays, but I honestly, this is like, I just put it on because I was a little chilly.
I don't know.
I'm a Mariners fan. I'm a Mariners fan. Go M's.
This is great stuff. Honestly, this is like the happiest I've been in like 3 years. No, I'm just kidding. Let's go. Y'all the legends follow all the time. Both of you prior to H&H. Man, that's awesome. That's great stuff. So appreciate you for tuning in. Hit the like button, hit subscribe button. If we got people tuning in from Korea, there's no excuse for everyone in the United States not to be watching our show. We should have 330 million people tuning into this show. That's how good the show is. So thank you, everyone. We've got Notre Dame winning the football game. Jamie by 7, me by 18. We'll be back on the post-game show right afterwards. I'll be on that with Mike, Frank, and Jamie Uyeyama. We'll be breaking down the game. On Sunday, I'll be doing my morning after show. Win or lose, talking about everything that happened in the game, and that's a lot of fun too. So have a good Thursday, everybody. Have a good weekend. We will talk to you after the game on Saturday.